Hi everyone, and welcome to Calling All Vegans, where we aim to network, support, and activate the vegan and animal rights communities, discuss the V word in a relaxed but unapologetic way, stamp out speciesism, and encourage pre-vegans to open their eyes, minds, and hearts and become vegan. I'm Sue Spar. This is my friend and co-host, Alec Bosse.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for finding us on our new YouTube channel, Calling All Vegans. If you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, and comment on our new videos so that you can stay informed about upcoming content. If you're enjoying the content, please share it with your other friends.
We're sitting down today with an award-winning Canadian filmmaker from Burlington, Ontario, Canada, an eco-warrior who uses film as a tool to affect environmental change. Her first documentary, Sea of Life, which is now streaming on Crave TV, explored the most threatened ocean ecosystems on the planet, and it was a call to action to protect them. In it also appears acclaimed Canadian filmmaker and conservationist Rob Stewart, who is best known for his documentary films Sharkwater and Revolution, and who perished in a scuba diving accident while in Florida filming Sharkwater Revolution, or Sharkwater Extinction. She is back on the documentary trail with her controversial film, Bright Green Lies, which is a groundbreaking feature-length production that explores some very uncomfortable truths about renewable energy, how they use the natural world as a commodity to power destruction, exposing it as the biggest greenwashing scandal in the environmental movement. It is a hard pill to swallow, but clean energy has a dirty little secret. Please welcome Julia Barnes to Calling All Vegans. Hi.
Hi.
Now, Rob Stewart and his film Revolution had a profound effect on you. What resonated so much?
When I watched that film, I was 16, and I had grown up absolutely in love with the natural world and all the amazing species who we share this planet with. But I really had no idea how much trouble that world was in until I watched this movie. And so I went into the theater, and I was learning for the first time that the world's coral reefs, rainforests, and fish are expected to be wiped out by the middle of the century. And as a kid who loved the natural world, I couldn't believe I hadn't known this was happening, and I wanted to do everything I possibly could to turn it around. So it took me about a week after watching that film to decide I wanted to make a documentary to show people what's happening in the ocean. So that was how this journey all began.
On that topic, do you think that there will ever be a moratorium on commercial fishing? And if so, will it come before the oceans are already empty?
It's a good question. I hope that one can come soon enough, but I don't have a lot of faith in governments doing the right thing. I think everything that I've seen has kind of proven that they exist for the most part to facilitate economic growth and the exploitation of the natural world to make profit. So chances of a moratorium coming on time to save life in the ocean, I think, are pretty slim, but it's definitely something that would be good for people to push for. And at the same time, I think we need to think about taking things into our own hands a bit more, and not necessarily relying on these bigger forces of governments to do it, because it doesn't look like they will.
The term shark-infested waters always really irritates me, especially if it's in reference to a human who has been harmed or killed by a shark. It's akin to saying Toronto is a human-infested city. Sharks live in those waters, and humans are the ones who are actually infesting them.
It's really important to recognize that sharks are absolutely fundamental to the health of the ocean. They are this apex predator. They're a keystone species. They kind of control everything that happens in the ocean beneath them. They take out the fish that are injured, and they make the ecosystem healthier by being there. So it's a sign of a healthy ocean if you're in the ocean and you see sharks. It's also something that has become pretty rare because sharks, 90% of them have been wiped out. So you're really lucky if you see a shark when you're in the water. And it's something that divers get really excited about. I always love it when I get to see a shark. And it can be hard to even get an encounter like that. It takes a lot of work to get a shark to come close enough so that you can film them. So I think people's perception of sharks are starting to change. I think a lot more people are respecting and understanding how absolutely important sharks are. Sharkwater has been out for a long time and it's getting seen by a lot of people, but there definitely is still that mythology that sharks are nasty and they're out to eat us. And, you know, every time I give a talk at a school, I'll have somebody asking me, why didn't the sharks eat you? And so the perception is still there. So we've got a lot of work to do, but yeah, sharks are absolutely important.
They do whatever they can to avoid humans.
Definitely.
Now, when I first heard about your film, Bright Green Lies, I was in such denial that I actually felt a little bit of anger against the film. Then I realized I was just behaving exactly like any non-vegan behaves when vegans are giving them information about animal agriculture.
Bright Green Lies, what was the inspiration for the film?
It was something that I had always wondered about since the time I started making Sea of Life. I was getting exposed to all this messaging from the big green environmental groups saying that, you know, solar and wind are going to solve our environmental problems and we've got to push for renewable, and, you know, everyone's out in the streets doing these climate marches demanding subsidies for renewable energy. And so I was getting all that marketing at the same time as I was interviewing scientists about what was happening to the ocean. And it seemed to me that the problems that we're facing in terms of the loss of life in the natural world, they're not primarily technological problems or behavioral problems. They're issues with how we're interacting with the natural world and the systems that we have set up, the way society functions. So there just always seemed to be this kind of disconnect, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me. And it was something that I wondered about, but really wasn't finding a lot of information. I would kind of ask everybody who I talked to, are these really as good as people say they are? Are these really solutions to our environmental problems? And funny enough, it was the last person who I interviewed for Sea of Life was this guy named Derek Jensen. And he told me, you know, when I asked him that question, he said he was working on a book all about this issue. It's also called Bright Green Lies, and he told me so many statistics and information about this technology that just really blew me away and made me decide this is probably the most important thing that I could make another documentary about, because we've got this entire movement that is kind of pushing for things as solutions without really questioning them. And the dark side of these technologies is far larger than people think.
In talking about these different solutions, why aren't solar, wind, hydro, et cetera, the clean, green, sustainable solutions to our environmental problems that we thought they were?
There's a lot of different levels to this. On a very basic scale, we can look at the fact that these are all made somewhere. That means that the process of making something like a solar panel or a wind turbine, it involves mining. Mining, obviously, you're destroying a place that was somebody's home. It was a natural community, and it involves, you know, deforesting the area and stripping everything down. So mining, we all know, is quite destructive. And it's also a process that involves a lot of burning of fossil fuels. Solar panels and wind turbines require a globalized economy. They require parts that are mined, extracted, manufactured all over the world. So there's a lot of shipping involved in it, which burns fossil fuels. So they have quite a large environmental footprint in and of themselves, but there's a lot of deeper issues at play here. There's also the fact that there's something called the displacement paradox, where, you know, everyone assumes that there's this baseline demand for energy, and that if you can meet that demand with things other than fossil fuels, that people will use less fossil fuels. But if you actually look back at the history of energy usage for as long as our species has been using energy, or for as long as civilization has been using energy, what you find is that as new fuel sources are added, the other fuel sources don't decrease. We just become a society that uses more, ever increasing levels of energy. So what they found is that as solar and wind is being added to the grid, we become a more high energy intensive, more high consumptive culture as a whole. So it's not something that's even having an effect on carbon emissions. It's not even doing the thing that people claim that it is supposed to do. And it's ultimately solving for the wrong variable. It's just a way of producing more energy when we really need to be looking at how we're interacting with the natural world and what is our relationship, and why are we consuming the way that we are. There's so many questions that are just not being addressed by that are really at the fundamental root of the problem.
What are we using this energy for?
Yeah, most energy that is produced is used for non-essential luxuries. It's used for, transportation. It's used for the production of cheap consumer goods that, you might have for a year and then throw away. It's used for entertainment, watching things on screens and, powering whatever people like to do. It's mostly used for things that, processes that are destroying the planet in one way or another. It's used for extraction, it's used to power the industries that are causing all the pollution that we're supposed to be against. So I think, yeah, we need to be asking much deeper questions about what energy is being used for.
Speciesism, human supremacy, and love of money and power are all forces that threaten the natural world. Could you talk a little more about that?
That really gets to the heart of it. I think a huge problem right now is this idea that humans are separate from and superior to the rest of life on this planet, and that the world just exists for us to exploit and profit from. That's, what's driving a lot of this problem that we're facing today, is this idea of this human supremacy, mindset, that people think that this is okay. And it's completely insane and suicidal. It's going to wipe out all life on the planet, including ourselves.
Those who are watching the film, what do you think that they will find is very shocking? And what would you say was the most surprising while you were making the film?
There's a lot of facts that I think most people just don't even think about. One of the most surprising things for me to learn was that renewable energy, the production and installation of it, is expected to be the #1 cause of habitat destruction by the middle of the century. So that's pretty surprising. And one of the things that I learned towards the end of making this film that I didn't even know going into it is that the production of these so-called green technologies represents one of the largest upcoming threats to the ocean. So, I spent all this time making a film about saving the ocean and thinking I was covering all these huge threats to the ocean. And it's only now that I've learned that they want to mine the deep sea in order to provide the materials for batteries for electric cars and for energy storage from renewable energy on the grid. So all this industry is, all this push for, increased renewables and green tech is causing this huge new industry that is threatening to destroy life in the ocean. So there are some estimates that if they were to mine the deep sea, each mining vessel would release 2 to 6 million cubic feet of sediment per day per mining vessel. So this would be dumped, back into the ocean. It would decrease the amount of light and disrupt the plankton who produce most of the oxygen in the air that we breathe. We absolutely need plankton. And it would smother and bury organisms. It would absolutely drive some species extinct, and it would toxify the food web with heavy metals. So this is a hugely destructive industry. They're calling it, the largest mining operation in history that's about to begin. And this is supposedly to save the planet with green technology. This is the complete opposite of saving the planet. But, the ocean has just become a sacrifice zone in the name of green technology. We're throwing the natural world under the bus. I'm not sure even to do what, because there doesn't seem to be any benefit coming out of doing this.
You've quoted Susanna Jones, who said, "Sacrifice is needed, but those sacrifices should no longer come from the natural world. They should come from us, from our materialistic way of life, from the bloated economy and those who profit from it." Do humans have to dismantle their me attitude and be prepared to endure some inconvenience and discomfort in order to save the planet?
Absolutely. I think we need to realize that this way of life and civilization is inherently unsustainable. Like, we can't have these levels of consumption and, the way that things are set up right now. It's just not compatible with life on the planet. So, all of the luxuries and elegancies that we receive in this culture come at a cost that is paid by other species, other humans, and future generations. And I think we need to realize that. We need to understand the true cost of these things rather than just looking at them as, shiny objects and pretty new things that are going to make our lives better. We need to realize they do come at a cost.
What would you say is the thing that you want the viewers to take away from the film?
I hope that people can look a lot more critically at what is being proposed as solutions and the kind of divide that exists within the environmental movement today. I think there's a very mainstream side of things that's all about pushing this idea that technologies can solve these problems and that we just need to make small tweaks to the system and everything will be okay. And, it's very much based on prioritizing this way of life and solving for how are we going to keep things going the way that they are right now, rather than changing things. And I think there's another side of it, which is most people end up getting into this because they care about the natural world and they want to protect it and to stop all this damage that is being done. And I think we need to, recognize that there are differences here and we need to be asking, what is our goal? And ultimately, we need to make our allegiance to life on this planet, because without that, we have nothing.
I have two quick questions for you. What grade would you give our beloved Prime Minister Trudeau and Canada, according to how far they've come along with the Paris Climate Agreement?
Well, I think
okay to give an F.
Definitely. And I do give an F minus, or if there was something lower, a C, I don't know. Things are getting worse, they're not getting better. And I think we need to also be critical of the Paris Agreement and not use this as a measure to determine whether a country is doing well, because when you actually look at what it is, they don't even mention the causes of the problems in the Paris Agreement. And really the only thing that they're asking governments to do is invest in green technology. And it's all about continuing economic growth and all these things that are destructive. So this is not even a benchmark for whether we're doing the right thing. And most people don't even think about that.
What would you say would be the greenest method for someone to heat their home?
I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's something that each person has got to look into, because it's going to be different depending on where you live. And so it's just a question that we should all be asking and researching. And we should also ask questions about, why are our homes so large and how many people should be living in one building? There's more fundamental questions as well.
I always just tell my kids, just throw on a sweater or something.
Yeah.
How can individuals support your documentary, and where can they go to follow the progress for it?
Yep, you can go to brightgreenlies.com. That's the website, and you can sign up to get information when the film is being released. We're pretty close to finishing it, so that's exciting. And yeah, you can support the film there. We've got a Facebook page up now, Sea of Life as well. The website for that is seaoflifemovie.com.
And are there any other socials that you would like to share with our followers if they want to follow you just in general?
There's a bunch. There's Instagram is Julia Barnes, at Julia Barnes 1, and at Sea of Life. I think it's at Sea of Life Movie. And yeah, their Sea of Life is on Facebook, and so is Bright Green Lies.
We both think you're brilliant, and I can't get over how much you resonate with me. Like everything you say is just like that's exactly how I feel. So I'm really blown away by you. So, and I can't wait to see the movie. I love Sea of Life, so looking forward to this one. So thank you very much for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
We have a new channel, Calling All Vegans, and we would love it if you would please subscribe, like, comment on, and share our content.
Thank you for taking the time for being on the show. It's really greatly appreciated.
Thank you.